An epic poem, epic, epos, or epopee is a lengthy narrative poem, ordinarily concerning a serious subject containing details of heroic deeds and events significant to a culture or nation. Milman Parry and Albert Lord have argued that the Homeric epics, the earliest works of Western literature, were fundamentally in oral poetic form. These works form the basis of the epic genre in Western literature. Nearly all Western epic self-consciously presents itself as a continuation of the tradition begun by these poems. Classical epic employs dactylic hexameter and recounts a journey, either physical or mental or both. Epics also tend to highlight cultural norms and to define or call into question cultural values, particularly as they pertain to heroism. Another type of epic poetry is epyllion, which is a brief narrative poem with a romantic or mythological theme. The term, which means little epic, came into use in the 19th century. It refers primarily to the erudite, shorter hexameter poems of the Hellenistic period and the similar works composed at Rome from the age of the Neoterics. To a lesser degree, the term includes some poems of the English Renaissance, particularly those influenced by Ovid. The most famous example of classical epyllion is perhaps Catullus 64. Some of the most famous examples of epic poetry include the ancient Indian Ramayana and Mahabharata, the ancient Greek Iliad and the Odyssey, Virgil's Aeneid, Dante's Divine Comedy, John Milton's Paradise Lost, and the Portuguese Lusíads. Oral epics or world folk epics. The first epics were products of preliterate societies and oral poetic traditions. In these traditions, poetry is transmitted to the audience and from performer to performer by purely oral means. Early 20th century study of living oral epic traditions in the Balkans by Milman Parry and Albert Lord demonstrated the paratactic model used for composing these poems. What they demonstrated was that oral epics tend to be constructed in short episodes, each of equal status, interest and importance. This facilitates memorization, as the poet is recalling each episode in turn and using the completed episodes to recreate the entire epic as he performs it. Parry and Lord also showed that the most likely source for written texts of the epics of Homer was dictation from an oral performance. Epic. A long narrative poem in elevated style presenting characters of high position in adventures forming an organic whole through their relation to a central heroic figure and through their development of episodes important to the history of a nation or race. An attempt to delineate 10 main characteristics of an epic begins in medias res. The setting is vast, covering many nations, the world or the universe. Begins with an invocation to a muse. Begins with a statement of the theme, includes the use of epithets, contains long lists, called an epic catalogue, features long and formal speeches, shows divine intervention on human affairs, features heroes that embody the values of the civilization, often features the tragic hero's descent into the underworld or hell. The hero generally participates in a cyclical journey or quest, faces adversaries that try to defeat him in his journey and returns home significantly transformed by his journey. The epic hero illustrates traits, performs deeds, and exemplifies certain morals that are valued by the society the epic originates from. Many epic heroes are recurring characters in the legends of their native culture. Conventions of epics. Praeposition opens by stating the theme or cause of the epic. This may take the form of a purpose, of a question, or of a situation. Invocation. Writer invokes a muse, one of the 9 daughters of Zeus. The poet prays to the muses to provide him with divine inspiration to tell the story of a great hero. In medias res. Narrative opens, in the middle of things, with the hero at his lowest point. Usually flashbacks show earlier portions of the story. Enumeratia. Catalogues and genealogies are given. These long lists of objects, places, and people place the finite action of the epic within a broader, universal context. Often, the poet is also paying homage to the ancestors of audience members. Epithet. heavy use of repetition or stock phrases, e.g., Homer's rosy-fingered dawn and wine dark sea. Poets in literate societies have sometimes copied the epic format. The earliest surviving European examples are the Argonautica of Apollonius of Rhodes and Virgil's Aeneid, which follow both the style and subject matter of Homer. Other obvious examples are Nonnus Dionysiaca, Tulcida's Sri Ramatrit Manis,